Andy Taylor, and I'm joined, as always, by Stuart Andrew and Isaac Alcorn, who, as we go through the BUCS Touchdown Tuesday, which happened yesterday. And yes, we do have Stuart with us, who is just awake, having spent all day in Loughborough. And that's why we're going and we're getting on with it, because we need to get in before Stuart falls asleep on the sofa. And yeah, so we'll go over. Obviously, Touchdown Tuesday, we had some other results from the weekend that we need to get to as well, which will then tee us up nicely for the rest of the season, which we've got 2 games left, not 3. We'll get into that in a little while, for sure, to try and temper Isaac's rants about the promotional games. So there's a little bit
not just about them either.
a little bit of retention for you for later, for sure. So Stuart, this is going to be very centric around you, obviously, because you were there yesterday at Touchdown Tuesday alongside a lot of our friends and colleagues, and obviously new partners there as well, for Touchdown Tuesday in the Union Jack Classic, which came out quite late on, didn't it? But overall, how was it? Obviously we'll get into the games and stuff, but how is it post Touchdown Tuesday on this Wednesday, which is supposed to be Big BUCS Wednesday, isn't it? But anyway,
Big BUCS Wednesday, yeah.
BUCS
How is it today? It's sore, it's coffee fueled, it's challenging, but all of that was worth it for 3 games of defensive high quality football yesterday, and yeah, rubbing shoulders with a lot of people that were both commenting and praising us and saying lots of really nice things. So yeah, appreciate everybody that came up to me and sort of said hi. Appreciate everybody that took time to sort of have conversations with me, not just players, coaches, other staff members, other event organisators. Wow, that shows you how tired I am.
Really organisers, for you.
Sponsors.
You went to the coffee shop, Stuart. You should
great
be all
day.
right.
I've had 2 lattes and a double macchiato today, but they were about 4 hours ago, so they are wearing off. Yeah.
Someone get him a Red Bull.
Yeah, try and say that 10 times quickly. And there's, the community are concerned for you. There's people on YouTube who are asking, did you fall asleep on the sofa last night? No, he probably fell asleep on the road that was blocked. They got unblocked.
It was
by
close.
UE.
It was close.
Absolutely. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go and have a little look at UE Performance, what they posted, which was the UE Bullets clearing trees off roads last night, which I thought was which is class. But hopefully you all got home safely anyway. I know obviously Stuart did, because he's parked in his usual spot. But no, it looked like it was, it looked like a great spectacle. And I think, I remember seeing a lot of comments around the stream quality and the production that BUCS put on, which I thought was a really good showing again, because I think they did a really good job last year as well, didn't they? And I know obviously, Stuart, you wouldn't have benefited from that, but the stream was really very good, wasn't it, Isaac? And presumably you got to enjoy a few minutes of it yesterday as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the thing in it with BUCS. They always have the best sort of streams at these events. I think just having it all in one place does help that a lot. But even the commentary was, there were 2 commentators for the first 2 games, if I'm not mistaken, and then 3 for the last one, trying to hype up that last event. And, you could kind of tell that throughout the day it was ramping up slowly. And no, it's good to see that, quite a little sport compared to all other ones in the UK is getting such great coverage. We've got our own day at BUCS. You wouldn't have said that, 5 years ago? They'd have been playing at some random Sunday at a random university somewhere else. Like, I remember watching Leeds Beckett play at Loughborough against Hertfordshire whenever they won the national championship. God knows how many years that is. But no, it's good to see that American football is really getting into the day and showing how big it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of love here, even on Instagram, for Stuart. He definitely fell asleep on that sofa as he threatened in the car. Please thank him for helping out the officiating group by driving me there and back, said Kay Falverson. I'm sure you'll know who that is, Stuart. So,
yeah.
I think everybody's very glad of your presence, as well as obviously the the information you were able to provide via our socials yesterday as well.
I'm quite shocked that you didn't get out of the car and help move the tree either, Stuart, if I'm honest. Quite
It's quite
disappointed in you.
disappointing,
I'm
actually,
really disappointed. Where was the live stream on Instagram story of you moving the tree? Just like a little selfie one. And...
We got the guy that's on Instagram, Chris. Me and Chris were in the car, and there was like 3 in front of us, and there was like a police car and cones out everywhere. So we thought the worst. We thought somebody had a sort of a much more unfortunate journey than we had. And I'm only putting 2 and 2 together to think that UE may have just asked, well, actually, we're a bus. We're not going to get down that road that me and Chris took in our car, because there's no way they'd have got the UE team bus down those roads. So maybe they stopped and spoke to them and said, look, what's gone on? How are we going to get around this? And they said, oh yeah, putting 2 and 2 together, that's what I think. But there we go. You mentioned the live stream. I did manage to get a bit of it because they Loughborough have actually upgraded the scoreboards at the ground, and they had a big LED scoreboard in the corner, and the live stream was put onto the screen so that the fans that were in attendance could watch the live stream as well as the live images in front of them. There was one instance where there was a replay that was put up on the screen that was contentious and should never have happened. It's a bit like when professional football teams show replays on screens inside the ground before VAR have looked at it. It was definitely one of those cases, and it was a shame to see it happen. And it got a bit messy, but it didn't affect the game too much, because I think the team that didn't benefit from the contentious call still won the game. So there was no sort of big issues with it. Nobody was shouting about it after the game. So good all round, to be fair.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the games then, shall we? Because obviously, three of the games that we're going to talk about were obviously the culmination of that bracket, but for one should have been the prelude to a season-ending game. But we'll get into why that changes after the news that came out today. So let's first start with that National League, which was the final game yesterday. It was the headline act, wasn't it? Which was Durham Saints versus UE Bullets, and I think, if I remember correctly, in the preview, we thought that this was going to be tight. I don't think any of us thought that 20 points scored would have been on the bingo cards. But Isaac, before we get into the detail with Stuart, probably, does this result surprise you? I think we thought it was going to be close, but in the end, it was just Durham squeezing over the line against a team that's never going to disappear.
I think if you watched the game on a live stream, you wouldn't be as shocked at this result. I think going into it, you'd have thought you're going to score more points and stuff like that. But when you saw the weather that were coming down, and Stuart did, Stuart, I can imagine how bad it will for you as well. But no, definitely that you saw the weather and you thought this isn't going to be a high-scoring affair. And you look at the last time these two teams played, UWE lost a QB early on, couldn't really produce much, and kind of just chalked it as a loss straight away. This was more like the game back in Bristol, where the weather were awful. 2 very well-matched teams, and both going for it. I think that it doesn't shock me who won, if I'm honest. When you look at the game, you saw UE were very, how do you say, it wasn't a UE team that we've normally seen. They're giving away far too many penalties. I think we were talking before the stream, and did they have a 4th down and 50 yards or something like that? Something ridiculous like that on the first drive. That's not the UWE way, as I remember, really, from the last couple of years. I think a lot of the returning lads probably found it difficult that teams are now taking it to them. Not only are they having to worry about Nottingham, but they're having to worry about Durham now, and potentially another team that's coming up. They've got it's why it's the National League. It's the best of the best, and I think that the UWE probably weren't as prepared for that as what Durham were. You could just tell that at some points Durham just wanted it more, and you could see that in the QB themselves. The multiple times where the Durham Saints QB would put his body on the line just because he knew what he needed to do on the day.
Stu, how did Durham win this then? From your point of view, the 14-6, is a reasonably close game at the end of the day, isn't it? And it was 6-3 half time, if I remember correctly. So there wasn't a whole lot of scoring opportunities here. But from being on the sideline there and in the stadium when you were covering for taking shelter. How did Durham win this? Because this should be the talking point, that Durham have got over this line and won this national championship.
Yeah, I think it was 7-6 at halftime. I think Durham had scored a converted touchdown, and Uwe missed.
So it won 6-7.
No. I was disappointed it wasn't. But no, it was 7-6. How do I think Durham won it? I think they were really sound on defense. Obviously, 14-6 says that it wasn't a great offensive performance by either team, but I think that Durham were just a lot more sound on defense. There was several times where Bullets picked up big plays, but again, they were few and far between. On the whole, Durham managed to corral Ethan Gretzinger in the pocket. They were able to sort of sack him, put pressure on him. They kind of contained the running backs inside the box, and when they were running up the middle, they only allowed them to maybe 3 or 4 yards a carry, roughly. And if you're going to do that, you kind of put your offense position. I don't think we've seen Durham punt. I don't think we've seen Uwe punt as many as we have in the last 2 years. And the one big play that Durham scored off in the end, I think, was a busted coverage. It was pretty much right in front of me. It was a splash play. I think it was about 60 odd yards, and it seemed like the DB and the safety just had some sort of miscommunication, and the Durham receiver went round the outside on a fade route, and the QB Nico, I think it was, just sort of lobbed the ball over the top, and the receiver waltzed into the end zone sort of almost untouched, as it were. And I think that's where the game was won, was probably that one little blown coverage, leading to that 8-point differential in the end.
Yeah, and explode. I think you mentioned it in the preview that explosive plays and special teams was going to be one of the big points here, because in the trenches it was always going to be a battle, and it was really fun to see that. And we kind of we mentioned how, offensive lines on both sides are very impressive. The defensive lines and the that front 7 or 8, depending on your formation, that they were really impressive on both sides, weren't they? And managed to contain a lot. Obviously, the DBs get a lot of mention because there's some very good wide receivers there that they contained, but it felt like a lot of that trench warfare really went into this game, and it was that a couple of explosive plays that decided it in the end. Defenses, did they look as ferocious as they looked on screen and on the field as well, Stuart? Was it? I know you mentioned them, but it seemed very impressive what was going on there defensively.
Yeah, there was lots of good form tackles, lots of big hits, some that would get penalised on a rugby pitch for having no arms involved, and definitely not what defensive coaches want to see. But yeah, people that have been playing football for multiple years, multiple decades, potentially some of them, with the scholars that they bring across, but also some plays that were made by some, British talent and English talent that had clearly been brought in as well. It wasn't just Americans on show across the board. I know that a couple of people were talking behind the Durham sideline after the trophy lift, and somebody was commenting, going, "Oh, it's all well and good having these Americans." And one of the Durham players came over and corrected and said, "Well, actually, we've only got sort of 15 out of a squad that must have been 35, 40 deep. So yes, it helps, don't get me wrong, and that's kind of why you offer these guys scholarships, but they come over and make the British talent better and the British coaches better, because it elevates everybody. So it's not just a mismatch in terms of the Prem National of how many scholars you can have and how many American talents you can have. It's all about finding that British talent and sprinkling that in, and making a good jigsaw puzzle of all the pieces to make sure that you can win football games.
Well, you're only as good as your weakest part, aren't you? Really, and that's what they're doing, isn't it? They're elevating the standard for all involved. And Isaac, what Does this mean anything from a UE point of view? Obviously, for Durham, this is huge. This could be program changing. You know, they weren't really in it last year. They were the second tier of this tier, weren't they, last year? And they've taken a huge leap, you know, to overtake the top two from last year, convincingly so. If you're talking against you know, Gold. So I don't want to take away from that, but obviously there's a UE side to this, which is a team that has dominated for years and years and years and fell short yesterday. Does it mean anything, or did they just come up against a better team on the day?
I think it means more for BUCS as a whole than it does UE.
Right.
I think it means that now they've got competition, which is great. I think it's something what the National was really built for, because when you had the Prem North and South, it was always, right, UE are going to top the South. So who's going to face them in the North? It was always that kind of argument, whereas now we've got that competition always. Yeah, you could say that potentially there were two teams this year in the National that, you know, didn't really provide that competition. But between Gold, Durham, and in the Bullets, them three there are, you know, the three best footballing teams, probably if you include adult ball as well. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think it means more as a positive for BUCS as a whole. I think UE now will probably take it as a positive as well, because now they need to up their game. They'll see it as, all right, now we've got some real competition. We need to start, you know, thinking about what's next. How can we progress? How can we do better on the field? Like, you know, you only lost by 8 points in the end. That's not a massive margin. You look at the past finals that they've been in, they've been blowing teams out. I think there was only one in the last, 4 years that was decided on a one-score game, if that, maybe two. So yeah, I think it's all round just good for BUCS American football. And I think that game, yeah, probably wasn't the flashiest, and it wasn't, you know, 50-yard bombs deep every single play. But I think it was a very good advert for what BUCS American football is and what going into next season it can be like.
Yeah, if it's always good to have a mixture of you know, of teams succeeding, isn't it? And to go into next season knowing that there's probably going to be a three-way. We'll talk about the potential for who's going to be there next year, but you know, we still know that there is a very clear tier in this National League, right? And at the moment, what Durham have done with this is that they've stuck themselves smack bang in that top tier. So we're not automatically going to go UE and Gold. It's now going to be UE, Gold, and Durham, right?
It's going to be interesting to see what Durham do in the off season, because you look at a lot of the UE guys, they're on 2-year scholarships. So their running back is Brees something. I can't remember his last name for the life of me. He was on a 2-year. A lot of them were, and it kind of helped them build a program, helped them build a culture of what they want to be. Whereas it's going to be interesting to see what Durham do if they are going to keep their QB, if they're going to these 15 players they've got, are they going to keep, or is it going to be like a not situation where they've got to recruit in, they've got to have these guys coming in every year as like a 1-year stopgap. It does work sometimes for Gold. However, they still haven't won the national championship they've been looking for. Durham have done that. Does that now become a more attractive proposition for scholars? You'd have to say it does, but it's going to be interesting to see, what kind of off-season they have and see if they drop it a week early like they did this year.
What do you think of Ben's comment on YouTube, which I think is quite interesting? And I think you brought this up before we came on, Isaac, which is Ben's maybe need to rethink their coaching strategy. Not going for field goals and extra points when teams are so closely matched is crazy, is his opinion. And I think you kind of feel the same, don't you, Isaac?
Yeah, it's a massive part of the game. There's 3 phases of the sport. Offense, yep, they'll score your points. Defense, they'll stop you. But when you need a field goal to help you, push you forward, give you a little bit of a momentum shift, you need that extra point. What didn't help UE was if they were to get that second touchdown and look to it, they were going to have to go for 2 no matter what, just to tie the game. You look at we're going to speak about it. We look at the UConn Glen, for example. They could rely on their field goal kicker to take them into overtime. Yeah, it didn't turn out that way, but still, they had the chance to go and do it. UE's identity as such is no matter what, we're going to score 8 on you every single time. And it's worked for him up until this season. And yeah, maybe the weather has something to play because it was horrendous last night. But I think it's definitely something that people need to look at more, because special teams is a massive part of the game. So yeah, it's where teams win and lose, isn't it, really? So it's someone that definitely needs looking at.
I think I'm in the other camp. I've seen some rather questionable field goals over the last 48 hours. Obviously, going down to Reading and helping Teb stream the Reading Bullets 2s game. Not just that game, but also in the Lancashire game. Isaac, I think you called them UClan earlier. In the Lancashire game.
I'm not going to say Lancashire, no, I'm just not.
There was definitely some questionable field goal kicking abilities, whether that's a snap, the hold, the kick, the what's it called? Elements.
Yeah.
That's 4 things that have to go your way to get that extra point. I get it from a field goal point of view. You'd much rather have 3 points on the board than none or turning the ball over. The benefits of a field goal far outweigh 0 points. But when you're talking about an extra point versus 2 points, the ratios are a bit more in your favor going for 2. I can kind of see why they do go for 2. Do they need to rethink it? They've done it for about the last 5 years in terms of UE. I don't think they're going to change. It's just their mentality. It's going to be, we're going to put on you as we possibly can. And that's, it's a mindset. Don't get me wrong. Coaching, I was always of the mindset of, let's get special teams sorted. Let's get 3 points on the board. And then my field goal unit becomes my PAT unit. It's kind of semi-automatic, as it were. But yeah, in terms of the extra point versus 2 points argument, that's fair game. Like, I don't mind going for 2 every time if you want to set that mindset. But in terms of having that field goal unit, I think you need to have it.
Yeah. I think it depends on your composition though as well, doesn't it? It's, if you're playing a team like Durham who are going to be sound defensively and you're lucky in a way to get a touchdown, do you then risk it for an extra 2 points when that could come to hurt you when you're already down anyways? It's that kind of thing. I understand it when they're playing Leeds Beckett. No offense to Leeds Beckett, but I'm coming for you guys today. But it's that kind of thing of and yes, Preston Polytechnic, exactly. Right. That sidetracks me then.
That's shots fired.
That is.
I don't know who you are, but well done.
Obviously not from Man Met, is he? She, they.
But no, I think it all depends on your opposition, because going against Leeds Beckett where they're not going to be able to stop you as well as what a Durham or a Notts can, then 100% you get all the points you can, because that's what really matters at the end of the year, doesn't it? Really, it's one of your deciders in a way. But going against Durham in a game like that where you're not going to get too many chances to score, take the points that are easier to you. But it'd be interesting to see if they actually do have like a PAT or a field goal unit, because I don't think they do.
It's interesting though, because if you take obviously the experience of the likes of Pete Jones and others, other highly respectable coaches within that organization who are obviously also involved in the Bristol Aztecs, they've come up with the likes of Lenkowski at Manchester Titans, and and the name completely escapes me from the Warriors. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about them nowadays, but the certainly the threat that those two set for opposition coaches when you can kick the ball from 25-30 yards in our game anyway.
Not many people can. It's always a nice thing to have in it, because when you look at Div 2 for example, there isn't that many kickers who can actually kick. They can't kick a PAT. Never mind a 30-yard field goal. So definitely, I think it's, if you've got it, you've got to use it. And I think
your defensive lineman stepping up to give it a kick. I know
that does happen. Yeah, our centre does kick for us.
I think SGS's kicker was in a 70 number, so he's either an offensive or a defensive lineman. But fair play to him. He booted that ball down. I remember somebody in the crowd making a comment about it, saying, is he gonna effectively kick the ball off? And he did. He got the ball down to the returners inside the 15-yard line, and if he's your best kicker on the team, put him up there. I think the guy's name, I'm pretty sure the guy's first name is Reese, but he's got a double-barreled surname for the ex-Warriors.
Anything's better than the kicking from
GB kicker.
Anything's better than the kicking from Bournemouth yesterday. Oh my days.
We'll get into that in a second, I'm sure. So I mean, to round this off then, obviously as a fan, it's great to see, isn't it, that you've got a new team winning the national championship, and a massive congratulations to Durham. You fully deserve it. You know, you had one slip up all week and all season, and that was an away trip to UWE earlier in the season, isn't it? So no, really good, really great season for them, and it's awesome to see that, isn't it? Obviously, that we're now done with national, and we're going to move on to the VARs, isn't it? Which unfortunately I slipped up yesterday and posted the trophy for the Division One instead, the VARs for Division One instead of the trophy. But hey ho, let's move on to the Prem North and South, where actually we had a southern final, didn't we, where we had Brunel, who took on SGS Pride for that game that we never got to see towards the end of the regular season. And Brunel, probably as expected, and probably, you know, not a shock really that this is very similar to the game that we saw earlier on in the season. It's to type for the season that both teams have had all season, and Brunel came out 20-6 winners against the SGS Pride, and we'll talk about the post-season effects, you know, in a second. But Stuart, you know, this, I don't know, I watched a bit of this, you know, I was in the middle of work, so I didn't get to see a lot of it, but it felt like it was over quite early. Did it feel that way there, or did it feel like that, you know, there was always a chance that SGS were going to get back into this? Because 20-6, it was 20-0 till very late on, wasn't it?
Yeah. Over's probably a strong word.
Yeah.
It always felt like SGS were behind the 8 ball, and they were always really trying to sort of play catch up. And again, their defense was, I was going to say phenomenal. Their defense was extremely good. I was chatting to a couple of SGS coaches, and then spoke to Coach Herod of SGS afterwards, and they had a few guys back on defense, and they tweaked their scheme a little bit in the first half, in terms of what we call sugaring the linebackers, so coming up to the line of scrimmage and backing off. Sometimes they'd go on a blitz, or they'd drop back and then late blitz, and that was really throwing the Burners' offensive line and their run game. You didn't see DM3, their running back, number 22, carrying the ball particularly well. You didn't see Christian Zielinski having time in the pocket to throw the ball. And, you know, Brunel really had to work to finish this game off rather than work to win the game, if that makes sense. You said it was fairly similar to what we saw at, previously. Lightning actually struck twice on 2 occasions, metaphorically. SGS fumbled the opening snap and was recovered by Brunel, which was exactly the same as their matchup in the regular season. And the score is exactly the same as it was in the regular season as well. So, you know, to have that consistency, to have that, I was going to say competitiveness, it is like to keep Brunel to 20 points is no mean feat. It's just a shame that their offense, Ash Bailey, the quarterback, the 2 running backs that they used, and sort of a couple of the receivers on jet sweeps, you know, they just couldn't quite get that ball moving. And again, that's credit to the roundedness of the Brunel program in terms of offense, defense, and then when they needed to punt the ball, they still could, because their punter came on, and there was a couple of high snaps, and they dealt with it reasonably well. But yeah, overall, I just think Brunel had a little bit too much in the tank for SGS to stop, and I think Brunel will do really, really well when they go up to the Prem National, which we'll come on to a little bit later on, won't we?
Absolutely. And so, you know, kind of getting the feeling that you felt that it was the superior offense of Brunel that won this for them. So the obviously SGS have had their offensive issues. We talked about it in the preview. You know, scoring 18 points a game for a team that made it to the final is not mightily impressive, is it? But they never really conceded anything either. So was that the difference on this occasion? The efficiencies of each offense, and Brunel maybe being the better of this season.
Yeah, I think so. I think I remember more prolonged drives put together by Brunel than I do for SGS. I think we saw SGS, going 4 and out or only moving the chains once or twice on their drives, whereas Brunel, I wouldn't say consistently, but on more occasions drove 40, 50 yards before they then either went 4 and out and it was turnover on downs, or ended up punting the ball away. So yeah, I think the result is fair. I think it is probably what we saw on the field of play, and probably symptomatic of how the whole season went for both.
Yeah, 100%. And Isaac, what did you take from this? Because obviously we've got Stuart's insight on this from someone who was there. But this feels like the right outcome in a sense, because it's what Brunel have been on a heater all season. SGS have stuttered many times, but still a very, very good program, and it's no surprise to see both of them in the final. But what we've ended up with is almost what we could have predicted to start off with, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100% that. I think it's as predicted, if I'm honest. I think that Brunel this year have been a bit of a surprise. I think that when they came into the league, everyone thought, yeah, they're going to do well. They could be sitting around that mid-table kind of thing. They'll get the playoffs. They'll do fine. They might have a playoff run kind of thing. No one could have expected the season that went on. SGS, on the other hand, everyone thought, right, they're going to build from last year. They're going to go again. They'll go undefeated. They'll go to the final again. They'll win it. They'll probably not play that game again because they don't want to. But that might have hurt them this year coming into it. It's the thing of, right, we're not going to play the up-down game. We're not going to have a chance to put ourselves in the best division. That's probably hurt them quite a lot this year. Just going into it and thinking, we've lost a lot of our players. Yes, it's a new team. They've built a lot around it, but for the amount of hours that the coaches and the team put in, and compare that to other teams around them, you look at the Cardiffs, the Portsmouths, who I thought would have a good season. It's kind of disappointing on the SGS kind of hand, but take nothing away from Brunel. They've been exceptional all year from the first game, haven't they? If anyone deserves to go up from the Prem North or South, it is the Brunel Burners. They're just the way that they've taken the year. The only London team in the Prem South are now the only London team in the Prem National.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as we've alluded to multiple times, what we have learned today is that Leeds Beckett have declined to take part in the promotional playoff game, the yo-yo game, as we regularly likely call it, and we will continue to call it. But they've declined that option, and as a result, Brunel will be offered the opportunity to go into the Prem National. And the official word is that they have to pass a audit in order to actually get into the national, which is quite interesting, isn't it? I've been sent the document. I'm going to read the document, 16-page document as to what you have to pass to make it into the National League, but which is quite interesting, isn't it? It's great to think that you have to achieve a certain standard to protect the product as such, isn't it?
A lot of it is like film, for example. I know the amount of film that gets traded between the national teams and the pitch that they've probably got. I think they'd be the only one to play on a grass pitch if they were to go up next year, which I think is a bit of a would be a shock. You might have to move to AstroTurf to make sure all your games go ahead, that kind of thing. Just so we do get the best football in the country.
Yeah, I won't go into details of what's in it because it's not good podcast material. Maybe an explainer reel I can give you if you like. But yeah, you're right. There's multiple aspects to it as far as I can tell as to what you have to prove that you are doing, and you get rated, and you have to make a passable mark to become a member of the National League, which is great. I think it's an amazing, but nonetheless, congratulations to Brunel. They have so far. They have 1 foot in the door in the National League for next year. They've just obviously got to pass that audit, and and make their way into the National League, which is exciting for everybody, isn't it? It's exciting for the prospect of having a different makeup of the National League, and seeing where Leeds go from here will be an interesting conversation for us to have. In the lead up to next year, obviously at Leeds Beckett, I should say, not Leeds, before I get slapped on the wrist. And the prospect of Brunel being another Southern team, in addition
It's
to
good.
UE, and it's great, isn't
More
it?
national.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of comments coming in, which is great. That there's, Ben said that having 2 turnovers in the first 3 possessions made it tough.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make it difficult for anybody, wasn't it? And it's disappointing to see that SGS didn't have a passing game, considering how much they do train and how you would expect, better. And I think that's fair, isn't it? We hold, rightly or wrongly, but I think fairly, we hold SGS to a higher standard, don't we? Because they train more than everybody else. They obviously have great facilities, etc. So we do hold them to a better standard than most, don't we? And probably fairly criticize them as a result.
And I think this is different, but it'd be like if the NFL Academy came into BUCS. Do you know what I mean? We'd hold them to a standard because look at the infrastructure they've got. Look at the coaches they've got, the amount of hours they're able to put onto the field. SGS are kind of at that same level. Maybe not that, like they punch it the same way, and when they've played each other, you can kind of see that sometimes. But definitely with the amount of time that they're able to put on the football field compared to other teams in that Prem South, yeah, you'd expect them to absolutely roll the league, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why we were really disappointed that they didn't take that step up to the National League, because naturally they would belong in that division, wouldn't they?
If the 2 losses were both to Brunel and Brunel went to win it, then fair play. But the one to Cardiff, the worrying one, just how the game was just poor as a whole. I don't know if you guys watched it, but that game was just 6-3 ended up, and it was just a poor game overall for both teams. But again, it's that thing of wanting it. It's that want and desire. What teams who wants it more, and sometimes football games are just decided by that.
So what now for Brunel then? Because congratulations to them. You're national Vars winners, aren't you? Fantastic. Feat at the first time of asking as well. Straight up there, undefeated. Okay, you didn't play one of the games because of weather, etc. But that was a really impressive season, wasn't it, Stuart? And now they're on to the Prem National, we think, more than likely. What's next for them? Do you think they'll be able to hang? It's certainly off this season, it feels like it. But what's your feeling for that program going forward?
I think they need to have a look at that 16-page document that you've been sent, and see where they can be better in terms of the program. I know that they won't sort of take it lightly that they've been promoted. They'll want to elevate themselves, and I think the product they put on the field has grown since they were promoted from Tier 1. And I think they've been able to bring in a few more players and attract a few more players. I think we saw a reel about 3 or 4 weeks ago where they partnered with the Kent Phoenix or Southeast Legion team, whatever you want to call them, that organisation. And they're trying to build that recruitment link with them. So they're doing the right thing on the field, and sort of away from it, just have a look at that operating standards, and see how they can improve facilities, how they can get the guys in the gym, how they can, their marketing's been top notch this year. They've tagged and worked with us on Instagram quite a lot. That sort of marketing strategy from a eyes on the program is a good idea. Background support with SU, AU, are they getting the funding that they need? They obviously are getting some, because they've got some scholars in. Coaching, they've got a heck of a lot of quality coaching on their sideline. So I think they've set a level, and they've set that expectation. You were mentioning about that of SGS earlier. They've set a bar, but that bar can always be notched up. If you're aiming for perfection, big cliche, and you fall short, you're still going to have greatness. So, keep elevating yourself, have a read through that document and see where you can keep improving, because nobody's ever perfect. So yeah, keep developing your program, and people are going to want to come and play for you.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're going to do well next year. Like you look at where they are, London. Like the amount of people that better get scholarships to because of where they are. Realistically, if you're an American, are you ever going to go to a Loughborough or a Durham? That's Durham looks like Hogwarts. Yeah, but like, are you going to go to one of them schools that are you have to travel 4 hours after you get off the plane, or you're going to go to London, where Big Ben, Ted Lasso, all that sort of stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Brunel is near that airport as well. It's West London, I think. Stuart.
Yeah, no.
I don't know whereabouts. It's in London.
I've been there.
Why did you bring up the geography?
I think it's West London. Right, guys. I'm going to search this up. But
you started it. You can get yourself out of that hole.
Yeah.
No. Well, definitely. Like being in London is definitely going to help them recruit and look better. Yeah, it's in West London. Get in. Right.
Good guess.
I was right.
But no, you're right though. No, moving on from that poor geography point that you were making.
I wasn't poor. I was right.
The point is that this is something that could really springboard Brunel, considering that where they are, the opportunity that they have, potentially depending on what goes on behind the scenes, maybe the backing that they have, and they're in the middle of London. This is the city that apparently is getting a semi-pro team. It's got Union Jack Classic are now on board, and they're pumping
a big college football game. Yeah,
a big college football game as well. It's coming in September, and all these things, all these things, kind of say to me that. Is this the big thing, that's going to come from this season at least?
I'm going to put a bold prediction out. I won't be surprised if we see them in the national final next year.
Oh wow! As in, like to try and very bold. And I mean, it's you can understand it.
Momentum's a massive thing, and going back to back, the recruits will be able to bring in the coaches they already got there. I was watching someone earlier that the head coach was speaking on about the culture he wants to make, and it's not just about making athletes, it's about making people, and that sort of thing, and helping men grow and that sort of stuff, and people grow. And definitely, I think if anyone's more suited to do it in that national, I think that it's the Brunel Burners.
Yeah, it's a real.
It's funny you mentioned the head coach and mentality. Post game, one of their receivers was doing pitch length up downs. One of their players came across and joined him, and then the head coach came across and joined him. And I think James did about 75 yards of up downs every 5 yards with the player, with the receiver who felt they needed to do up downs, even after they'd won a 20-6, national final. So I think that sort of mentality is ingrained in them now. And that's obviously come from top down and is also working bottom up from the players and the coaches as well. And that's the mentality that's going to make your program succeed.
Yeah, this is a head coach who's been in the job for 2 years. In his 2 years, he's gone back to back and got him to the national prem. I don't think there's another coach, maybe the Northumbria coaches are anywhere near that sort of level. But the instant impact is hard. It's incredible.
Yeah. And you've mentioned national championship. That's a very lofty goal, isn't it, for any program that's just come from tier 1 last season? Obviously, it almost seems fairy tale, but I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. But their first objective is survival, isn't it? Yeah. So first, it's establishing, making sure you keep people together, and then if you end up in a promotional playoff promotion playoff game, you win that game, right? The yo-yo game, you win that, right? Or you go into that league to make sure that your 2 finals are against Loughborough, and you put Loughborough in that position, don't you? So that's they're the stepwise, isn't it? Then the other is to try and break into that top tier. But really, really interesting, isn't it, to see where they go. And I suppose SGS, it's just restart and go. I know we've got a little bit long on this right now, but it feels like that might just be a go again, and we'll probably see you again next year, won't we? It feels like with that program as usual.
Yeah, I was chatting. As I said, I was chatting to Coach Herod after the game, and unlike last year, they don't lose a huge proportion of their squad. They maintain the guys that came in this season as sort of freshers or new recruits. They still lose a little bit through natural turnover, but they'll go again. And I think that bar that you say we hold SGS to, it won't drop because they still train like no other team. They still have facilities like no other team that you mentioned. So, yeah, I still think SGS do really well in the South next year, but let's see what they can put out on the field offensively. I think.
If you're lucky,
Totally.
you're worried at this. You're
Yeah, I
looking at
think
this
so.
team who's gone back to back. Yeah. It's
Considering who's joining the Prem next year as well, which we'll obviously be talking about around about now. Let's have a little look then at what happened in the national trophy then, because this bracket's busy. It has been because of the size of the competition. But what we did have at the start of the day was Lancashire Rams versus the Bournemouth Bobcats, and we predicted from the start that this was going to be close. We just didn't know how close this was going to be. We didn't know what the Lancashire offense was going to be like. Two very, very good defenses. And actually, Stuart, it felt like the defense controlled this game as well, based on the stories that you were sharing. And I didn't get to see much of this. I was knee deep in a critical care unit. So apologies for not bringing much more insight than that. But what's your overview of what happened in this national trophy, which ended up being 13-6 in overtime to Bournemouth?
Exactly that. If you're a defensive coordinator, defensive coach, defensive minded person in any way, shape, or form, you watched this game and loved all 48 minutes plus 2 overtime drives of this football match. If you're an offensive guy, you were cringing, you were wincing, you were scheming to see how you could beat these two defenses. But I think I mentioned to several people on the day and also in the preview that it would be whoever won the turnover battle or whoever made something happen on special teams. In the end, I think it probably came down to who won that overtime coin toss to sort of figure out who knew what was going on. And it was just a war of attrition. It's not the type of football game that you'd want to see at 10:30 to 12:30 on a Tuesday morning. In all honesty, this is probably like an afternoon watch or an evening watch. It was, it was a slog. I think by the end of this game, knowing that overtime was probably coming, it was a bit like, okay, let's see what these teams can pull out of the bag in overtime and who has the minerals to sort of take it to the other team offensively, who's going to tweak something. Credit to Coach Rains and his outfit. They got the job done in the end, and he's put out a rather large post thanking all of his team, and so he should. They've come through a lot of adversity, self-inflicted, as you said in one of our group chats earlier on, to overcome that 7-point deficit. But they've then had to travel to Bristol, travel to KCL, travel to Hearts, and really put the whole team on their back to overcome 3 arduous road trips. It's not a short hop up from the south coast, and then travel up the night before the final for a 10:30 kickoff. Again, I know it's not their problem, but they've sort of always found a way to overcome it. That's not to say that Lancs haven't had adversity. They were obviously starting second string quarterback Charlie Martin, and you could tell occasionally he was getting frustrated by the way that his offensive output was going, simply because of the throttle nature of the Bournemouth defense. They tried several different things and they kept going back to different things. But it was most definitely a defensive, a massively defensively heavy game and a defensively controlled game. So I liked it. Obviously, being ex-DC, I liked it. Did I enjoy it as a spectacle? Probably not. But I enjoyed the tactical nature of the game.
I mean, a 10:30 kickoff is brutal for anybody anyway, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Imagine being from Bournemouth up to Loughborough.
I think they went up the day before, didn't they? If I remember correctly,
Yeah,
we were
they did.
messaging them, weren't they? So they went up the day before, but still, I think half 10 kickoff is a 8:30 start really for most programs when you're talking about walkthroughs and warm ups and so on. That's wild, isn't it? And that's always a struggle in it. I mean, the spectacle is awesome. The three games in one day is just, I wouldn't want to change that. But if there's ever going to be offensive rust, it's probably going to be the 10:30 kickoff game, isn't it? Where there was, but we kind of knew that defenses were going to be the main say on this game, right, Isaac? And that's kind of what we saw, and it didn't feel as if it was too much of a surprise, this 13-6 win.
No, not at all. And, the Rams did really help themselves. So you look at their defense, multiple picks throughout the game. They did help as much as they can, but the defense can only do so much. I think you saw it with NTU in the playoffs in the Prem North South games. Like, their defense can only do so much until their offense need to help backing them up. And, their offense looked good to begin with. Like, the little short routes they were doing, they was able to get a couple of decent runs away. But when you go further into the game, you're looking for bigger plays, the plays that are going to really strike into the heart of the opposition. They weren't able to do it. You're looking, it was good to see their head coach, Sam, really back the lads no matter what. Yeah, we're going for adversity, but no matter what, we still want it. We're still going to go out there and give the best account of ourselves, and that's always great to see, because you never want as team to go, right, our best players out, we've got no chance now. But he had that mentality to go, right, our best players out, or one of our best players is out anyways, but we still got a chance because we're here. And it's always, and you've seen it all the way through the playoffs. They haven't done what Bournemouth have done. Bournemouth have scored 40 points against KCL. They've scored a ton of points against Hertfordshire and against Bristol, and then all of a sudden they can only score 13 against a side that haven't been able to manage anything on offense. That's a credit to itself. And realistically, no matter what, they were going up anyways. Like, their reward for the season was done. This is just an extra well done pat on the back. You get an extra shiny medal, but they are the Division 1 or Tier 1 North champions. Like, they deserve all the plaudits for what they've done, especially in the playoffs, where they have been. Look at that MMU game. How different that could have been if MMU can get an extra point over them. You look at the Manchester game, where there's barely anything in it, and it just shows how good their defense is. And going into the Prem, man, if Charlie Martin's fit next year, if he's back, if they can get another QB, which I think they've got a QB.
Yeah, they've got
from
an
the
NFL Academy. Yeah.
My word, Prem North, look out.
Oh, 100%.
The amount of the scholarships that they give as well, if that's going to turn some heads, honestly, it's going to be massive.
The one thing that is almost guaranteed is both these teams are going to scare all opposition. Not scare. That's obviously you're never going to get that sort of revelation from a team, are you? But these aren't going to make up the numbers next year. They're going to go up, and they're going to cause some havoc, aren't they? With, as you say, a defense coached by amazing defensive coaches in both Bournemouth and I nearly said UClan, Lancashire.
Wrong side of the Pennines.
Yeah. And then you've got both teams that have got, are getting commitments from very good quarterbacks, very good running backs, and coached amazingly well. I want to shift towards Bournemouth in a second, but I do want to highlight that how much of a reflection of a coaching job it is that they did lose their starting quarterback before the playoffs started, and they managed to still be in it to an overtime with one of the best teams in the country. That's a great reflection on them. But let's quickly move towards Bournemouth, because they have gone completely undefeated throughout the season. They have taken it to everybody on the way and conceded 6 points in the whole entire playoff. Coach Rains and that coaching staff and the players there, they need to be given their flowers, don't they? On how good of a season that was this season.
Yeah, I think if you look at the start of the season back in September, you'd have probably expected Bournemouth to, before the points deduction and stuff like that, you'd probably expect Bournemouth to be in that I keep calling it Prem. Just how good some of the teams are in that Tier 1 South final. They were there last year when they lost to Brunel. you'd expect them to be there again, probably alongside like a Birmingham. I think it would have been fair. But definitely this year, when they've just been able to overcome that 7-point deficit at the start of the year, going up to Christmas, where we're at 6 games they played in a ridiculous amount of time before Christmas, and they've got a packed schedule. Yeah, they've got a really packed schedule, and then all of a sudden they're able to have a rest, recuperate, and they still come out the way that they were doing it. It's remarkable, especially when they've got to go away to teams that, look at KCL, they're having a great year. You look at Hertfordshire, what they've been able to do. They did win the Touchdown game, which was important as well. But no, it's going forward. Neither of these two teams have anything to worry about in the Prem. There's teams that are worse than them in the Prem.
Yeah, and we don't know how it's going to shake up, do we? Really, in terms of alignment, because obviously Leeds Beckett come down, presumably
Warwick
into
could go in the
Prem.
south.
Would it be that Warwick down to the south?
Yeah. Leeds Beckett, UClan,
probably.
If
Nottingham.
Birmingham were there, then you would have thought that Warwick would be, wouldn't you?
100%.
So you'd go Bournemouth and Warwick into the south, Leeds Beckett down into the north, joined by Lancashire, who replaced Leeds. Right?
That south gets tastier.
It does.
If Warwick are in there, wow. Cardiff, who had a great end to the season. Portsmouth, who looked like they were just about getting there towards the end.
Warwick, Bournemouth, and SGS. Yeah,
wow,
brilliant.
Yeah, that's a tough one to call. Looking forward to next year already, guys. What's going on?
Yeah,
living the moment.
Fantastic, Stuart. Any last thoughts before we just go on to the Conference Cups?
Yeah, quite a poignant one, but something that I wanted to point out. A really nice touch from Bournemouth yesterday. All of their coaches on the sideline had pins for Chris Coop, who was their photographer, who passed away, sadly lost his fight with MND earlier on in the year. And I just thought that was a really nice touch, just to have that memory of him. And I know that Steve Rains put on his Facebook and tagged Chris's son, and he sort of thanked them for doing that. And yeah, I just thought that was a really nice touch, and shows the class that these outfits have, that overcoming adversity and remembering the good people that are involved in our game. And I just wanted to make a point of shouting that out and just saying that was a nice little touch.
That kind of stuff shows what kind of a community we are, doesn't it, really? It shows how close-knit and how interweaving we all interwoven we all are together. It's always lovely to see stuff like that.
Needs protecting as well, doesn't it?
100%.
Right. Brilliant. We're 57 minutes in and we haven't talked about Tier 2 yet. So we, I suppose, this was a Touchdown Tuesday review, wasn't it? But we really do need to talk about the Conference Cups, because we obviously had the semi-finals at the weekend, and that tees up the finals, doesn't it? Which are this weekend?
Yes. He said with
Maybe?
certainty.
Yeah,
No, I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
I think it's next Wednesday, right?
I think it says on the graphic, does it not?
Bring up the graphic, Andy. Here we go. Northern Conference Cup.
There you go.
5th of April. There you go. Fantastic. When's the 5th of April? That's like 2 weeks, isn't it? Fine. So not this weekend, the weekend after.
Easter Sunday.
Yes.
The same day that Leeds Beckett was supposed to play. These games are going on.
Controversially, it is on Easter Sunday.
Right. Sorry, Cambridge and Lancaster. That's what happens when you make it to a final. So let's briefly talk about what happened at the weekend, which was obviously Cambridge versus Coventry and York versus Lancaster, and it kind of played out how we thought it might. I think, if I remember correctly, back to our previews. Isaac, this is the North. Let's talk to you. Cambridge, the Bagpipes. Plus or minus, was 30-14 over the Coventry Jets and secured a place in the final against the Lancaster Bombers, who overcame York Centurions 7-6. What's your thoughts on that, really, heading into this final between these two sides?
I mean, the Bagpipes were on IR, so we didn't know. We don't know if Stuart. Do we know if the Bagpipes were there?
I don't think they were. If I'm honest, I can't remember.
And they still won. That's a great effort from the lads, right? so far this year, I've loved this Midlands division. It's been incredible. AIU at the start of the year looking good, and then Isaac. Oh, you put your money where your mouth is, and it didn't work. Okay, guys. Well, where are the damn you Lions? That's all I'm saying. But even they did incredibly well, getting to the playoffs. Some of that shocked everybody. Cambridge to come out of the way they have done, when looking at it, you'd have said that it was going to be Coventry, Lincoln, or Cambridge who were going to win that division, get promoted, and have a look at the playoffs, and they've done it. And it's great for them, overcoming Coventry that were in the Prem North. What feels like 4 years ago, something like that, something ridiculously close. They're in the Prem North, and it's kind of upsetting to see the decline of that. It's a great footballing city. You've got a Prem North team in there in the adult league, and hopefully they can get back to winning ways next year. But the Pythons will definitely take that and look to build on it going into Div 1 next year.
They're the only one in this final that are promoted, aren't they? Because Lancaster, which that's the talking point here, they make it into the final, having beaten LJMU, and then obviously York, and they will still be in Tier 2 next year.
We said this earlier, it's self-inflicted. Mark your pitch out properly. You play your game, you beat them. LJMU were on the beach probably that day. A little bit, their job's done. They don't need to win anything. York, they would have loved to have won that game, but again, a close game between the Battle of the Roses. The wrong side won, right?
No, the right side.
Right side.
The wrong side, guys. let's not take the mickey, all right? Got full Steve Bruce there.
I'd love it if we beat them. Different reference.
Different reference. But no. But definitely, Lancaster Bombers have taken this as a personal vendetta against BUCS, I think, and just giving it to them. We'll take it.
A coin flip.
Yeah, it'll be really good to see
when this
game goes ahead, see what the coin toss looks like. If the bagpipes are there, if the Bombers are able to carry on the way they have done in the playoffs and look as strong, and it's finishing off a mixed year in the Div 2 North. You look at the Northwest where they've barely played any games, the Northeast where they love a draw, and in the Midlands where you got 3 teams who are 4-2, and the team that you'd probably expect to be 4-2 after Christmas hadn't won a game since Christmas. So it's definitely been a very intriguing and interesting year in the Tier 2 North.
Yeah, absolutely, and Lancaster would have gone into these playoffs with their hair on fire, wouldn't they? Having gone through what they went through on the final day. So, it'll be very interesting to see how that final plays out, and we'll do that another time. But to have Lancaster and Cambridge in there, it feels, other than maybe the LJMU part of this, isn't it? It feels like it's the just desserts in the end of what we've got in the final. And then, Stuart, if we head a little bit south and have a little look at the Southern Conference, we had Reading versus UE, and UE2s came out on top there, didn't they? 11-6, and you were there for that game. And then Queen Mary overcame Swansea and beat them 20-6 to set up a UE Quimble final in the Southern Conference Cup. So, what sort of insight did we get to those 2 games? Obviously, you were at one of them, and set us up with a nice final to this conference.
I'm really looking forward to this final. This has got, I think the words that I've potentially heard are revenge sort of written all over it. It was a quarter-final tie last year that Quimble won. So I know that a couple of coaches on the UE2 sideline are looking at sort of putting a wrong right, as it were. What do we know from the 2 semi-finals? Quimble took a very quick and early lead. I think they were sort of 14-0 up at half-time. Sort of looked like they were doing what they needed to do over Swansea, who have kind of stumbled since that loss to Gloucester in one of the final regular season games. Swansea just about overcame Surrey, and then couldn't get over the hurdle at Quimble. What did I see down in Reading? Very much like a lot of BUCS Touchdown Tuesdays, a very defensive heavy battle. Again, special teams was questionable. I've mentioned a lot of the field goal kicking. It was more sort of putting all 3 phases together. Sometimes the snap was really high. Bullets got 2 safeties in the end because high snaps went over Reading punters' heads, and one actually went out the back of the end zone, and the other one the punter downed in the end zone. Bullets came out with a funky formation to get the winning touchdown. They kind of went quads one side and a single receiver the other side, and broke their tendency by all accounts. So yeah, it was a really great game to watch. I'm really glad that I went down to watch it. Thankful for Tebs and Depth Chart Sports to be allowed to sort of co-commentate on that game. That was really good fun. My first sort of colour commentator role. I did a little bit obviously with UON a little bit, but I
did you actually get to see
fun.
the game live, like in the not
I
through
was
7 different TV screens?
Yeah, it was different, and I was operating the score bug, and I did the game clock, and I was really happy that I got it right 3 quarters out of 4. And when I had a chat with the referee, even the referee admitted to slightly manufacturing the clock. But yeah, we got it fairly spot on. Hey, the referees are not perfect as well. We sometimes
Football.
do what we need to do. And yeah, it was a really good day out. Both teams were having lots of fun on the day, and to be fair, it was a really good crowd as well. We were on the Reading sideline. I know this number is not going to sound fantastic, but for a BUCS game on a Sunday in Reading, where they were having also the Reading Marathon, which made getting to Reading particularly challenging as well. But there was probably like 40 or 50 spectators, and they were mostly parents as well by the looks of it. There was a few other students out there, friends, but a lot of it was family. So it meant something to a lot of the Reading team as well, which was really good to see.
Well, there's plenty of teams out there that would like 40 to 50 people on their sideline week in, week out, wouldn't they, in our sport?
Div 2, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. No, agreed.
So.
I think we get like 20 at Raiders, so.
And it's another game where we see it's another game where we see a promoted team versus a team that just missed out on promotion as well. So both the Southern and the Northern final is a bit like, can these non-promoted teams put a stake in the ground and say, well, it should have been us, but it's going to be our year next year.
I mean, if you go back and listen to one of the BUCS weekend kickoffs, you'd be able to hear Sam Astley talk about the playoff hopes and how important that is to his team.
Shameless
100%.
plug. Shameless plug. Love it.
Every week.
I love it.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. You should. And certainly something that will carry on into the summer as well, because it's always great to get thoughts on that, isn't it? It might not be you. I'm not saying it is going to be you, but we should absolutely do something similar.
I was going to say
into the summer. But brilliant. So yeah,
Isaac's
so
face was like,
that ties up.
throwing me under the bus there.
I can interview myself now. I'm playing.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, absolutely. It's obviously awesome to have most of the seasons wrapped up. We've obviously got 2 more games left. We would normally have 3, but 1 year we might get that promotion playoff game. And we had a bit of controversy in the last man standing as well, didn't we? Where there was 2 players who picked losing sides. So we've got some decisions to make, haven't we, for that?
I think I win now.
Yeah. First of all, an apology about this, because I really didn't do anything on Monday. I had an assessment work and sort of an afternoon in work. So by the time, and then I had to create all the graphics for yesterday. So there was some questions about whether we were going to do something around last person standing for BUCS Tuesday, Touchdown Tuesday, partnered by UJC. But yeah, it may well now come down to the 2 Division 2 finals, the 2 Tier 2 Conference Cup finals, because both Ben and Alexander picked losing teams, so they technically both got eliminated. But I don't know whether EP Sports could. Don't know whether EP Sports. Whether EP Sports can do 225s, or whether we coin toss, or whether we do a pick for the 2 conference cups. But we'll decide that in house. And Alexander and Ben, if you're listening or if you're watching on catch up, we'll reach out and let you guys know.
Yeah, it feels like an Aaron question to sort out, doesn't it? Really?
Oh no, don't get him ranting.
Certainly not. Yeah, we just enjoy the nice stuff and then pass the bad stuff over to him.
I mean, no one won. Does that mean we get to keep the voucher?
Oh,
yeah, maybe.
Don't say that. Don't say that on camera live.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's fine. It's fine. But no, fantastic. You know, it's great to have all the comments from everybody as well, who's obviously added to the conversation today. Hopefully, you enjoyed our coverage over Tuesday, or Stuart's coverage over Tuesday, from live from Loughborough. And yeah, we'll be back. We have had confirmation of all the fixtures now, thankfully. So we're going to get all of them out, and me and Stuart and Isaac and probably Kiwi. We haven't figured it out yet, but we'll get back together and we'll talk about try and start building up some pre-season, because it's not that far away until we kick off, is it? In fact, and I think there's flag this weekend, isn't there? So the flag podcast will be up very soon. I think Friday, I think it was going to be planned for. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, Aaron and Nick will be getting together to preview the NFFL, which starts this weekend, and then I think it's only a weekend or two away until we start seeing mixed contact, unders, youth, etc., whatever you want to call it, NWFL. So we'll start getting that information out to you, and check out on our socials, and we'll come back for probably some YouTube videos to start previewing the seasons as well. But we'll probably be back again next week, won't we, guys? Because we'll have some things to talk about, some things to preview. We haven't figured it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
never know. Might do a BUCS weekend kickoff with a backpipe man.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I know there are a few people that have reached out about like pre-season pods, and they want to be guests on sort of podcasts. We are open, so if people want to come on and want to shout out your club or your organisation or something like that, drop us a DM, either through the IBB channel or our own. The three of us, our own sort of IBB media channels, or media@insidebritball.co.uk. Drop us an email and we can do it the old-fashioned method. We won't do letters on a postcard because the Royal Mail's not very reliable nowadays. But yeah, I will.
Isaac.
It's 9:30. It's still early days. I think I've still got some dessert to have, but yeah, I will go and get some sleep. Thank you very much, WCR.
Yeah. I was going to say a perfect way to sign off the podcast is, Stu, go get some sleep. Absolutely. You've had a tough 48 hours. I'm sure you've enjoyed every minute of it, but absolutely. Once again, thank you, Stuart and Isaac, for your insight. Thank you, Stuart, for your coverage yesterday. And thank you for all those who joined us on the podcast, listening, watching. We appreciate your input to the podcast. As always, we'll be back again next week, I'm sure. Me from the in-law couch in Ireland, but we'll figure it out. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back again, and take care. Bye-bye.